Welcome to Afrikultures.
Thank you so very much, Tessa Baks. I'm so glad to be with you on Afrikultures today, and I say hello to you and to our viewers.
So I'll go straight to the problem. Tell us, how did you manage to separate both or bring both together to make yourself comfortable in your continent?
In fact, I won't cease to thank God sincerely for making me an African, because this is one of those, I think, as of now, I think this is the best continent of all the 5 continents in the world. This for me is the best continent. And the unfortunate situation we have is that people have tried to demonize Africa. But it's such a great continent that when you look at it, even from the biblical perspective, from a long time ago, God had a great plan for Africa. And when you see in many areas, God had to salvage many situations by turning to Africa. An example I want to quote: when Jesus Christ was being chased by Herod to be killed, God sent that he should take refuge in Africa. So Africa is such a wonderful place, and it is true, like every other continent, Africa has its own traditional practices. But what I know and what I am persuaded about is that Africa is wonderful, and we can always pick the good ones, adhere to, while we keep aside the negative ones, and also educate our people to adhere to the positive ones and put aside the negative ones that have a negative repercussion on their spiritual being, on the economy, on their social beings and health and what have you.
So we are going to get straight into the big question for this part of our program, to know, do you read, and what do you read?
Yeah, I'm somebody with a very huge desire for reading. I read much, and on the top of my reading, I like reading Christian literature, followed by history. I like to always be informed. I always like to have a traceability of 1 or 2 things. I like reading pretty much.
Is there a book that the young ones are following you? Which book can you advise to a young African right now to read?
When you talk about books in particular, I want to say I'm a little reluctant to call this a book, because it is a source of life. I want to talk about the Bible first. That's what I
nearly said apart from the Bible.
Oh, you nearly said so, and I answered your question also with the mindset that in fact we were talking apart from the Bible, because I am a little reluctant to call it a book. Yeah, it is just a source of life and a livelihood for us.
Can you give us what you think an African child today can go and gain something in it? Which parts of it?
I think the key verse that somebody should pick from the Bible and be able to make it a part of his life is John chapter 3 and verse 16, which says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever, an African boy, an African girl included, believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." When you have that and make it a part of your life, make it a point for reflection, it can always chart a great course for you, because I believe one's life revolves around his spirituality. So when you succeed to lay this foundation, many other things else can fall in place.
Then what do you think about the sayings from the Egyptologue, the Afrikaners, those who are purely in Africa, who believe that the Bible does not say the reality is that it wasn't a white man who automatically saved the world, that they were all blacks?
Yeah, the question is not as to, I think Jesus was more universal than a black or a white man. Yeah, so it is not an issue of color here. Yeah, it's true that our color as Africans make us unique, but I want us to look at man from the viewpoint of the spirit and the soul, because that is the essence. The color, it has its own part to play, but it is so subjective.
So, Pastor, I would like us to go ahead. You're a writer, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm a writer. 3 publications now in the market.
I think you have them with you there. So explain to us, how does it come for you to write the books? What happens really? What inspires you?
I think the first of things is divine inspiration. Yeah, when I have a divine inspiration, I think if I only talk to people, I speak for a short term. But when I write a book. It is for posterity. Generations after me are going to benefit from what I've written.
Okay.
So I began the first book, which I published in 2013. I wrote it was a Christian motivational, and thereafter I had this burden, this desire to see sanity, a level of sanity brought into marriage and family life. So I began a series called the Marriage and Family Life series,
Okay.
which I published the first of the books in it that is in 2017.
Okay.
Yeah, so I began with Before You Say I Do. This one is a book encouraging, or in fact laying the foundation, giving people the direction of how singles can prepare for marriage and live responsibly as singles and end up getting married and having a good married life.
Does it mean that Pastor discovered that Africans are also really going for divorce, or something went wrong?
It is actually a very serious issue, Africa included, because as the days are going by, I want to say that in fact the culture that Africans had as far as family life is concerned over time is actually getting diluted. So I had to really write some things down in order to bring us back to the track, the path where we had been in, because Africa had this idea of respect, mutual respect was already getting on the balance. Had to write to
As you said, that women have become very independent.
Yeah, after the Beijing conference and the other things, our African women were already losing that great beauty in them, because our African women are just so wonderful, such a great breed. So I wrote this in order to get us read back and get to the point of mutual respect and have our audience.
So
yeah, our audience.
tell us about the second one. This one is Before I Do.
No, Before You Say I Do.
Before you actually
say
I do.
Yeah,
Okay.
before you actually go to exchange your marriage vows, what are the things you're supposed to do, and what are the things you're supposed to really build yourself on, in order to really be a good wife or good husband.
Okay.
And then
that
after
one?
that, in 2019, I launched Effective Conflict Management in Marital Relationships. Yeah, this book, I discovered that at the core, at the center of divorce and separation, lies this very awkward word called conflict. And there is no marriage that will be void of conflict. So I thought it is going to be good to get people have some hands-on management skills as far as conflict is concerned, such that couples don't drift apart because they got married and conflict tore them apart, and they, rather than enjoy marriage, they ended up enduring marriage.
So for you, if we are talking clearly, it's because we are losing our values as Africans. That's why we are having this issue of divorce and conflicts in couples.
Actually, as I've said, not to say lose is too big, but I would say they're getting diluted. Our values are getting diluted. Our culture as Africans, we have some political values. When I say political values, within the context of a family, we know that the family has a head. Every family has a head, which is the man. And every maybe quarter will have a head. A clan, a village to say, will have a head. A clan will have a head. And then there will be a paramount head, which will be in charge of that society. Along the line, you discover that respect that these various people were having is depleting, and that is one of the things which cause stress in marriage. And the rate of divorce was only on the rise. So I thought it is very good that we go back to those fundamental values that we had as Africans, which are going to really keep us on the track, will keep us moving, keep the beauty of our continent. Yeah.
I suppose that Pastor TATOH comes from a particular region in Cameroon, and that there also there's something that we need to discover.
Yeah, I hear from the Northwest region. Yeah, and when I saw the artifacts of the man's gallery, I could really go down memory lane to see. I had an uncle who was dealing in all of that, so our house used to have
looking like his own.
yeah, but not as organized as his own. But we used like, what is he really doing with this? It's over time that I discovered it's such a great thing to keep touch with the continent, as you say.
So, Pastor, you were going to tell us something about artifacts.
Yeah, what I want to say about artifacts is that you know, one of the things which has caused people, or the reasons for which people demonize artifacts, is because within African culture or African settings, most of our masquerades, you know,
Juju,
the jujus, yeah, what they put on, yeah, they are always linked. So with that, everything that looks artifacts, people look at, there should be some demonic undertones to it. But I want to say, as far as culture is concerned, be they the artifacts, the values, the norms, and what have you, the intent behind each and everything is what matters most. The intent behind it. Let me draw a parallel. I want to take you to the Bible, if you don't mind. When you read the Bible in Exodus, you read from chapter 31 to chapter 39, you will see two parallels are drawn there as far as artifacts are concerned. The Bible shows us that when Moses was leading the Israelites out of Egypt, they got to a place where he had to go to the mountain, Mount Sinai, to collect the Ten Commandments. So in the course of his stay there, the people mounted pressure on Aaron, and he produced a golden calf. That's artifacts. He produced it for them, and they began to worship it. They began to worship it as an idol. So God was mad at it. Moses was mad at it. But this same God also told Moses to construct a sanctuary, which when he was constructing it, God put craftsmanship in Bezalel and Oholiab to be able to get things to embellish the sanctuary with it. What does that mean? It means that most often some of these things get demonized because we think the intent behind them is actually negative. But to have just, you know, an artifact that has no spiritual connotation has no problem. And it is the same thing in our African setting. When you look at, it is true, the Bible is against polygamy when it comes to marriage. I'm linking it because when you look at, in those days, Africans, the true African man was the man who had more than one wife. Though that is contrary to biblical teaching, but their intention, their desire for doing that were purely to make a name. That a real man should have more than one wife, and they really wanted to have it for economic reasons. That if I have maybe 3 wives, and each of them delivers 5 children, I'll have 15 children.
Prestige,
So if I have a big cocoa farm, a big coffee farm, I have a ready workforce already, and things like that. So the intention of some of our cultural values are very important. Our artifacts also inclusive. I think if my memory doesn't fail me, in the mid-90s to 2000, the Catholic Church brought in the concept of inculturation. And some people got so mad at it. But my view on it is, if we have masquerades enter the church, and they are just those things, those artifacts, without any spiritual connotation to them, I see no worry with it. I want to encourage the youth to just try to be organized. The other side of the hills always looks green, but far off hills always look green too. So it is always good to concentrate on what we have on hand, and we can always make the best of what we have on hand here. When people don't add value to themselves, scarcely will they deliver value. So it is good to deliver value, and to do so, we must add value to ourselves as Africans. We must be conscious of what we have as opportunities around. We have fishing opportunities, we have farming opportunities, we have artifacts, we have just many things around us that we can tap from it to become a better people. So it is always good. But above all, learn to trust God. Above all, learn to make peace with your Creator, because He is the one who gives us the ability, the possibility to become better people in life, and the ideas which can actually impact our generation. It's not good to die with all that you are. Die at least with a legacy that you've kept, so that the generation after you can benefit to know that somebody lived of your kind.